You're listening to the Bible as literature.
This is Father Mark Boulos.
And this is Dr. Richard Benton.
Welcome to the first episode of The Bible as Literature. Today we're excited to welcome the Reverend Dr. Bill Mills.
He's the pastor of Nativity of the Holy Theotokos Church in Charlotte, North Carolina. And he's also author of several books, one of which is Walking with God, Stories of Life and Faith.
So we had the chance to catch up with Father Bill this year at the Antiochian Biblical Institute in Coral Gables, Florida, and we're excited to bring this interview to you.
So Father Bill, could you talk a little bit about how you talk about the Bible, how you teach the Bible, and what you do as far as getting people into the Bible at your parish?
Well, when I first got to Nativity, I thought the Bible was important to learn as a community, because when I got there was no education for adults. So we started with the prophets and just went through the prophets chapter by chapter and very simply explaining the text, bringing modern cultural and personal experiences for examples, so people can understand the text via their culture today. Drawing upon movies or literature or events in the world to kind of explain the text. And people got interested, and then after that we started with the Psalms, and then we went to New Testament, did the Gospels. But a big piece of that also was liturgically, because people hear the Scripture in the liturgy and at Vespers, so wanted to use those kind of lessons as examples too, since people heard those year after year after year.
So did you get a lot of pushback? I mean, I guess, one of the things that I often hear, mostly from clergy, ironically, I don't hear this from the people, but I often hear people raise concerns about the content of Scripture, being too violent, or perhaps dealing with issues that are inappropriate for certain ages. How did you grapple with that, or was that even an issue in your parish teaching?
When I got to Nativity, there was no adult education at all. So I started from the ground up and very basically taught the people Scripture, and they had no problem with any of that, because I used cultural examples, and they realized the Scripture is no different.
So what kind of once you did it, what kind of reaction? Were people bored? Were they excited?
No, they're excited because then after a while I invited Father Paul down, and his first talk was on the book of Revelation, and we had 50 people at the parish for a whole Saturday. It was called Apocalypse Now, and people loved it. We had people from the community come. And after that, Father Paul came twice a year, and then people really got involved in Scripture. So now it's almost like a no-brainer that people really want to learn more and more. And I just did a session in the fall on the Bible.
Okay, yeah. Well, it's all the same.
Yeah.
I keep telling people
I'm just like...
you could read Galatians, you could read
Isaiah.
Isaiah. At the end of the day, you're the problem when you hear it. So.
Yeah. Did you notice it had any change on the life of the parish when you started doing that, or since you didn't, or did you not have much of a baseline?
Well, I have quite a few educated people. I have 8 Ph.D s in the parish. I have 3 doctors, a lawyer, and they're educated to begin with, and they wanted to learn more. Yeah. So they got excited, and the more they learned, I got excited, because I felt I was doing something positive. So kind of built upon a snowball effect.
Yeah.
And actually, for a while, I was getting too busy with new catechumens, and I had 2 little children. So I had 2 lay people, actually, team teach Matthew and another gospel, because they're both educated people. They both love Scripture already.
Right.
I trusted them.
Yeah.
And it was excellent.
How did it work out?
It was good for them because they got to use their gifts. The parishioners saw lay people teach them, and I felt comfortable.
That's key, and I wish more priests did that, Father Bill. Like allowed lay scholars to teach.
Oh, sure.
Because it puts the authority not on the caller,
sure,
but actually on the content. The knowledge, which is what we're all.
And they enjoyed it too. They enjoyed it.
Yeah.
The parishioners enjoyed it.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Has it brought in people? Has it turned people away?
Neither. I don't think.
So it's just part of the life of the parish.
It's part of the life of the parish.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it's part of the social cohesion and that. Okay. So talk a little bit about how the program developed. So you started off and you said, okay, we're just you come in. There's no adult education. So you said, okay, we're going to do some adult education.
We start with the prophets.
Start with the prophets. Yeah. Okay. So you started with what?
I started with the smaller ones, Hosea, the lesser prophets or minor prophets. Because it was smaller, I figured it was more palatable. And then from there, we went to the Gospels,
Okay.
all 4 Gospels. And then we took a break for a while. And then we did Paul. And then we did the lectionary study. So we did like Matthew cycle, Luke cycle. Because people hear that in liturgy. And I thought, why not just draw upon what they know already?
Similar to the cycle, the pattern of your books.
Exactly. And that's how it started, actually. The early books that I had were based on the liturgical structure of the church. And I finished the whole cycle of that. Because it's important, people in church hear these lessons, but either if the priest doesn't preach on them or if they miss a Sunday, at least they have something on the written paper. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And it's important because a lot of times it also prevents boredom. If you're going through Matthew 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, it might be boring for people, but if they hear it at a liturgy on Sunday and you talk about it in adult class afterwards, they'll kind of get the connection.
How do the kids? Do you have kids in the parish?
45 children. Yeah.
Okay, so how do they respond to this type of education program?
Well, it's wonderful because when we first got to Nativity, we had no children education. There was nothing, and both my wife and I were raised on church curriculum. And both of us didn't like that, so we decided we needed something new. So Taisia is very biblically oriented. So we have a whole cycle of Old Testament, year 1. Year 2 is New Testament. Year 3 is Sacraments and Saints. And the idea is that curriculum rotates. So, for example, a kindergartner will get Old Testament at kindergarten, again at 3rd grade, and again at 5th grade, but different levels. So she wrote it for elementary level, middle school level, and a high school level.
Oh, that's right. She wrote a whole curriculum.
Yeah, and some churches actually use that curriculum for their church school program.
What is it called?
There's no name for it, but she just has it written.
If I'd like to ask you, Father, if we could, maybe look at a copy of this later and talk about it. It might be something we could potentially incorporate at Ephesus School.
Sure, yeah, and
or at least some of its principles.
It's great for the children because they hear lessons in church sometimes, depending on the year, and then they get it in church school. So it's a good way of doing that.
Fantastic. So you've written a number of books.
Yeah.
Tell us about your latest book, Walking with God.
Walking with God is basically a collection of sermons. I didn't want to call it sermons because people wouldn't, buy it or might maybe find it boring. And basically, it's a collection of sermons from 2 or 3 years, and of course edited. And I find that the books that I write also have to have like a reflection piece. So every chapter ends with 3 or 4 food for thought questions to get people into the text. And I know there's a Greek parish in California that uses it for adult class, and it's good because lay leaders might not know where to turn for resources. So my books are geared for that kind of a level. They're not commentaries per se, but they are books that anyone can pick up and read for themselves or for small group ministry or for adult class.
It's important, just thinking about our own experience, Richard and I working in the Ephesus School. When we started, it was, aside from your books and some other work that folks are doing, it's really hard to find good quality biblical material that's not written by scholars, for scholarship. Mm-hmm. It's actually for the community, the people that we're trying to, minister to and minister with. So it's really exciting. It's an honor to see you. Very excited about your latest book. Looking forward to hearing your presentation today at the Antiochian Biblical Institute. And hopefully this is the first of many interviews.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, Father Bill.
Thank you.
You've just heard the Bible as literature. Thanks for listening.